Most universities have an internal communications team, but most of the internal communications work in a university actually sits outside of that team. It's in departments sending updates, project leads writing newsletters to each other, people organising events, or colleagues just trying to keep each other informed as part of a wider job. At Imperial, Beth, Lloyd and Sara West have set out to connect those people. What they've built is an internal communications network with more than 400 members. In this episode, we talk about how that works in practice, the monthly meetups, the informal coffee mornings, a really cool sounding buddy scheme, and a little bit of admin that stops the same people being hit by multiple communications on the same day. What comes through though is less about tools and more about relationships. And what Beth and Sara are basically trying to do is make it easier for people who communicate across the university to actually know each other, share what they're doing, and avoid working in isolation. And that's the really cool bit. Enjoy the conversation. Thanks, Sara and Beth, for joining me today. Just to get things started, do you want to just tell us who you are and what your roles are at Imperial?
My name's Beth Lloyd. I'm Internal Communications Manager at Imperial. So I've been at Imperial for about 3 years now. I have worked in other higher education institutions before, the University of Leicester, Royal Holloway University, and I also spent a few years in the NHS as well.
And I'm Sara. I'm also Internal Communications Manager. I've worked at Imperial for 8 years now. So 3 years of that has been spent in internal comms. And before that, I was working in one of our academic departments. Before that, I've worked in the third sector. I've worked in higher education on the students' union side. That's where I started my career. And I've also done some work in media and broadcasting as well.
At a basic level, for someone who's new to the sector and hasn't worked in this way before, what does the Internal Communications Network do at Imperial?
So basically, it's run by us in the internal communications team. So we sit centrally in the communications division. And the network brings together people who are working in academic departments and faculties, maybe research centres. It's also for anyone who wants to join. We're not exclusive. We'll invite anyone who wants to join and that might find it useful. So we find a lot of colleagues, it might be that comms is kind of just one part of their role, and actually they're busy doing events or admin, or that they've got a lot on in their roles, that actually we want to try and make it as easy as possible to be on brand and share best practice. It might be that a colleague runs a newsletter, but actually that's the only comms that they do. And so then this is just a place that they can come for support and also sharing messaging. So the network is also a place where we can share with colleagues what's happening from a central perspective on like key campaigns. So things like staff survey or NSS for students. Those are the two that come to mind, but anything like that. And we can share copy and keep them posted when to expect things. But also it's really crucial for us as well to kind of know what's going on in local departments. And so the network's kind of just a place to share what's happening and share best practice and just bring people together across a very kind of fragmented structure in some ways. Imperial is very federated, like a lot of institutions. So it's just, a way to tackle that really.
And so you have, is it monthly meetings?
Yeah, we have a monthly meeting and that's led by us. We'll send an agenda in advance and we invite teams in to come and talk about projects and maybe some examples of what's gone well, what's not gone well, anything like that. We also attended, a couple of us in the central team attended the Institute of Internal Comms Festival last month. So we were able to report back on that and share some learnings, which we're hoping to do more of, and invite external speakers in to come and chat with the group as well. But the monthly meeting is kind of just one aspect. So we also have email distribution list, an MS Teams site, which is really valuable. People can ask questions there and almost help each other as well. It's like a central space. And we obviously keep an eye on that too. And within that Teams site, we have specific channels for example, our email management system. So we use Populo at Imperial. So we have a dedicated channel for that, for anyone who's got a Populo license. And they can also help each other if they've got technical questions, if that I'm really struggling with this. And so it just really helps create that that community, really.
Yeah, and just on Popular, because I know I read a bit about the introduction to Popular, and I'm right in thinking that anyone who's got a Popular license is also sits within this network. How has that helped with your email ecosystem? People having access to training and a community to speak to others about the newsletters that they're developing. Has it led to a difference in the effectiveness of the newsletters, or like what difference has it made?
Yeah, I think it's made a really positive impact. So we have it, it's like our kind of standard process. If anyone is added to Populo, that's something that we manage in the central team as well. So if anyone's added to a license, we also add them to the network. And it's also just a way for us to communicate if there's any known issues with Populo. We have regular updates with our account manager, so we can share stats so people can benchmark their open rates and click-through rates. So yeah, it's been really, really valuable. Sarah, I don't know if you have anything else to add on Populo.
Yeah, I think just to add to that as well, it's been really useful for consistency, increasing the consistency within our newsletters. So in 2023, Imperial did a rebranding exercise and introduced a new brand. And
which I love, by the way. I think it's great.
Thank you. That's really nice feedback to have. Yeah, I think some of the stuff they've done with it is really cool, particularly the kind of colours and the imagery as well.
Definitely.
But using Populo and having the Populo users within the internal comms network has been a really effective way for us to bring that branding into our internal newsletters. So, before the new branding was introduced, departments could kind of do their own thing when it came to the brand and newsletters. And what we did with the new brand is we introduced some templates to kind of standardize those internal newsletters. But at the same time, within that is built some flexibility so that departments can still have their own local identity, and sort of, that the visual side of things is really clear, for different departments. But it's just been a good way to kind of enhance that training for our users, kind of share best practice as well, particularly in terms of things like using images. And just create a look and a feel across Imperial that's quite consistent, but at the same time maintaining some of that individuality as well.
That's cool. But I guess the third aspect of this is like the kind of community building side. So I saw as well that you're doing like termly in-person coffee mornings. It has the network in general, and those coffee mornings, has it helped people work more closely with others in other teams? Has it had an impact on like cross-organizational working, is the buzzword, isn't it? But has it actually genuinely helped with that?
Yeah, the coffee mornings is something that we added. Again, just because we all work across, Imperial has 11 campuses. So, there's a lot of people based in a lot of different places. And so it's kind of impossible to get everyone together at once. So the coffee mornings was it's a very like casual opportunity to just come along and have a chat. And it's just something nice that we can do slightly more sociably and kind of informally. And it has meant that we've been able to, connect faces to names and have good chats with, particularly with like new colleagues who've joined as well. So like they're new to Imperial, they're trying to figure stuff out. So we encourage them, once we've added them to the network and we've made contact with them, encourage them to come along and just, meet face to face, because that is just a nice thing to do. And when we don't often get that opportunity.
Definitely. It's just a nice way for people to see us as well as the central internal comms team, because again, it's such a big organization. So it's really helpful for us as a team to make those connections, and also for those colleagues as well, because, if they are kind of either experiencing a challenge or they're looking for an answer to something and they're just not sure where to start, it's actually, they can often come to us and we can then signpost them. And then in terms of that kind of cross-organizational working as well, there is a lot of informal knowledge sharing at Imperial. So it's really helpful. So often you just need to find the person that knows the person to talk to. And so it's a really good way of building those connections. And we've also introduced a buddy scheme as well to support that. Again, sort of based on feedback that the colleagues were kind of feeling a bit isolated and sometimes weren't sure who to talk to. So we match people up based on the skills that they're sort of interested in developing and also what they can kind of bring to the scheme. So again, that's just another way of connecting colleagues and creating some more of those informal networks.
Yeah, that's really cool. So let's talk to me a bit more about that buddy scheme then. So literally anyone into the network can sign up to be matched with someone else from the network, and that could be from outside of their team or from anywhere, I guess, across the university.
Yeah, absolutely. So our buddy scheme is open to anyone It's primarily communicators at Imperial, but as Beth has mentioned, communication roles can look very different across the organization. And then there's a sign up form. They just indicate what they'd like to learn more about, what they'd like to develop, if anything, and then what skills they've got to share. And then on that basis, we'll try and match partners. And other than that, it's fairly light touch in terms of administration from a central perspective. We'll just check in occasionally to see how things are going, or someone's buddy might leave and they might want to be matched with somebody else. And but it's been fairly popular. When we first started the scheme, we had about 30 people sign up within the first sort of 6 months. So it shows a bit of an appetite for that type of scheme. And we're just looking at ways that we can keep developing it.
Yeah, sounds really cool, and a really, really positive way of impacting the culture of a place, to get people chatting from different areas and exchanging ideas. So we talked a little bit about the new brand before as well, and the buddy scheme. Am I right in thinking that another kind of positive outcome from the network and the way it's being used was around the sexual harassment awareness training? Is that right? So what happened there? How did the network help the delivery of that?
So the brand implementation was a really good example of a project where we got feedback from the network, and we really wanted that kind of two-way dialogue, and then their support with the rollout. The sexual harassment awareness training was a really good example of utilizing the network to sort of broadcast a really clear call to action for all staff at Imperial. So we introduced this new training it was 2025, I believe. So it was a new course, mandatory for all staff, and then we had a deadline date for when people needed to complete it by. And the network really supported us with getting that message out to as many people as we could. So what we did is we shared some text that they could use in their newsletters, their communications. We had some digital screens. And the key thing about sharing this text that could be included in their own newsletters as well is that, as well as this call to action to complete the training, we really wanted a cohesive message to explain why we were doing it as well. We didn't want it to be kind of seen as a tick box exercise, but actually something that was really integral to what we want for our community of staff and students, and that is to create a welcoming and safe environment for everyone. So having that text that people could, take and put into their own newsletters to really consistently share that message was really important for us.
It sounds like a really effective way of driving that forward. So we've talked about the benefits for people who attend the network. I guess I would be interested as well in terms of what benefits has it brought to the audience, so the people who are receiving communications. How has the network improved their experience, you think?
I think it's a really good question. In terms of benefits for our audiences, I think it just helps streamline some of that messaging. And when we're putting together our comms plans from a central perspective for whatever project we're working on, the internal comms network is a key channel for us. So we'll build in that time to, something might be announced in staff briefing, but that's our fortnightly staff newsletter. But we might then say, okay, the next week we're going to cascade content to the network, and then it can appear in local channels, and then it's that really smooth kind of cadence of comms that from an audience perspective hopefully looks quite smooth and coordinated, and thinking about the order of when staff receive certain messages. I think having the network just really helps align the communications, and so hopefully the audience are really clear on if there's a really key call to action, what they need to do, and if they're seeing it in one place, they're also seeing it in another place, and it just makes it as easy as possible for them to follow whatever call to action we're asking them to do. Like we know colleagues have not a lot of time each day to digest the information that's coming to them, so we just want to make it really clear, and hopefully if they're seeing it pop up in multiple places, then that is a benefit to them. They know it's important. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add, Sarah.
A couple of things that came to mind, and one is it's really closely linked to what you've just said there. I think also in terms of benefits to the audience as well, by bringing everybody together in that space and having that shared understanding of what's happening across the university in terms of communication, I think as communicators, it helps us to all be a bit more aware of what's going on, so that we're not overloading our staff and our students with information, and so that we can pause things if we need to, or move them around slightly, so that people aren't getting 10 messages on something in one day and then nothing for the rest of the month, for example. And I think another benefit that's come to mind as well is around kind of feedback and sentiment and how things are going on the ground. Our network's a really good resource for finding out how staff and students are feeling, what some of the key issues are for them, and any kind of common questions or themes that are coming up, so that again, as communicators, we can be a bit more proactive in how we either respond to those or how we use that information to help shape what we're putting out as well. So that is a benefit to us as communicators, but then it kind of, pays itself back to the community. Hopefully they're seeing that kind of response to how they're feeling in real time as we're sending things out.
Yeah, something you mentioned there, Sarah, about people planning in their communications. So we have tried with the network to create a bit of a planner of when people's regular newsletters go out. And this is just an example of where we tried something, it didn't quite work. It was, a bit too onerous to ask people to fill in something, keep something up to date on like a kind of calendar function. But what we've done recently is have it's just a very basic Excel document where people, if they've got a regular newsletter, we just have the name of it, we have who's responsible for it, the rhythm of when it goes out, so it might be monthly or weekly, or and just kind of even just having that information as a reference is just really helpful to consider, when people are sending stuff out. And also we share from a central perspective. We always have the dates on our website for our staff and student central newsletters, so people can plan their content around what's going out centrally as well. So again, that would just help audiences not have like 5 newsletters come to their inbox in the same day, hopefully.
Okay, so you mentioned that there's 400 members in the network, which is obviously that's quite a lot. So how does that work in practice with there being so many members? And who are those members? That can't just be people who are just solely communications professionals. So really interested in it, who else has joined the network and what impact it's had on there as well.
Yeah, so it might be that colleagues who are leading on projects, like project managers, if they've got a specific task for the network, if they're doing a piece of work that will require mass communication across the university, or they're implementing a change that will affect a lot of people, it's useful for them to be part of the network so that they can access those communication colleagues. So quite often we will invite them to come and speak at one of our meetings so they can kind of, present the change or the project, what's happening. And then people know to look out for more communication from them. It might be that they supply copy or call to action, or it might just be a way for them to get their contact from the network and understand who they might need to speak to next. And as we've mentioned, like we're keen for the network to be open to anyone who might find it useful. So there are dedicated comms colleagues across the organisation in like faculties and departments. And as we've mentioned, that can look quite different. It's not necessarily the same structures across the board, but also you have colleagues who comms is only part of their role, or there might be that they are a colleague that isn't, they don't work in comms, but they're responsible for a newsletter. So it's just a way whether they can be involved and get some advice. But when we have, that's the number, like 400, that's who's on our distribution list and who's part of the team's site. When we do our monthly meetings, we have it's about an average of 60 people a month. So that's the core number, I would say. We're keen for it to be, if anyone wants to join, if anyone would find it useful, then we're happy for them to be involved, really.
And on a really practical note, we should probably mention that we run the meetings online as well. So
I was wondering about that. I was like, you must have a massive room.
a nice massive virtual room, because I think, and again, people in universities probably are familiar with this, that it's space on campus is a premium, and it would be tricky for us to find a venue that would host so many people. So while we do have coffee mornings that are in person, we tend to hold that in one of our campus cafes. And I'd say we probably have around sort of 20, 25 people maximum turn up to that. And yeah, for our meetings, it's all online as well. So it's really easy to get us all together in that space. And as Beth mentioned, we have sort of a certain number that come to those meetings each month, but then we also circulate a recording afterwards in case people weren't able to attend at the time it was live.
Just thinking about people from other universities listening to this, if they were thinking about either setting up a network or maybe changing their internal network that they've got going on at the moment, what advice would you give them about where to start, what to look for?
I think I would say thinking about how valuable it can be for you and your team. I'd say it's worth putting in the effort at the beginning to get it set up, to then get get the rewards later. I think it is we found it so valuable from a central team perspective to kind of have that link to other colleagues across the university. In terms of other advice, I mean, we're always happy to speak to people, very happy for colleagues across the sector to come and talk to us about in detail about how we do it. Always happy to share that.
And I think on the practical side, something that has been really useful for us is having really good processes in place and having a really good rhythm as well. So in the summer, we will plan out our meetings for the year and then try and get them in the diary so that people have got them, they know when to expect them. And there's also that regular cadence of both communication, but also opportunities for staff to be thinking about what they're working on and when the next internal comms network meeting is, and then if it's sort of useful, appropriate, a space for them to bring that. And then similarly, after our meetings, we have a really good process for following up as well. So we'll send the recording round and any key points and any call to actions as well that staff have shared in the network meeting. So yeah, I think just having those processes in place and that regularity to keep people engaged has been really helpful for us.
I guess we've talked a lot about like really successful projects that the network's been involved with. How are you guys hoping to develop it in the future and change it?
Yeah, we have some plans for the future that we're hoping to put in place. So ultimately, we just want to continue to strengthen the network, continue with our monthly meetings, the coffee mornings, the buddy scheme. But we would like to invite external speakers to come and speak at the network, and offer some of that career advice and just make it a development opportunity for people who are part of the network, and how colleagues might want to develop within their communications career. And we're hoping to do a dedicated session on using AI, how to use that appropriately and effectively within communications as well. So things that are really topical, like let's have a chat about it. Let's have a dedicated session and offer advice. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at the moment. Obviously, it takes time to plan these things, and as with the case elsewhere as well, we don't have a budget for the network, so we're kind of doing this without any kind of budget resource. It's our time really that gets used to kind of make it happen. So yeah, that's the way we're hoping to develop in the future.
You mentioned earlier you'd be happy for people to get in touch with you to chat about setting up a network or what you've done at Imperial. What's the best way for people to stay connected and get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm happy for people to reach out either on LinkedIn or by email. So my email is b.lloyd@imperial.ac.uk. We're also members of the Russell Group comms network, for staff and students. So any colleagues who are part of those groups will likely see us at those meetings as well. So yeah, always happy to chat.
Yeah, likewise, happy to respond to emails or LinkedIn messages. My email address is Sara, sara.west@imperial.ac.uk. And really just to encourage people to reach out. We're always happy to have a chat. And so do feel free to.
Brilliant stuff. That's really interesting. Thank you both so much.